Newcastle 3, Ipswich Town 0. Ipswich are relegated from the Premier League. Welcome to Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. Commiserations, everyone. Are you feeling a kind of sense of closure now, Dave, even though it's been, kind of inevitable for a while?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think as Kieran McKenna said in his press, I think yesterday and over the recent weeks or so, that it was pretty much done. Let's face it, after the Wolves game. What a run! We'll perhaps get to them later. What a run they've been on, for goodness sake. So, yeah, it was just the final. The final nail was hammered, literally hammered in the coffin yesterday, and it's. Sadly, 4 games to go. But as we said, the writing has been on the fat lady's been singing, the writing's on the wall, however many other cliches you want to use, for a few weeks now. So no surprise yesterday. And as we said in our chat in the green room before the before the show, just cut and paste from last week, pretty much, pretty much to the letter, almost.
I'll use the same bullet points as I've got written for last week. Joe, is there any kind of sense of closure for you? It's been it's hard getting relegated, isn't it? I remember the 18-19 relegation where you kind of know a long way before and you're hoping for something to happen that often never happens, right?
Yeah, well, I think McKenna said as much yesterday that it doesn't change anything. We knew we were relegated. It was what it was after that Wolves game, which could have got us back within 6. We thought maybe we could, but obviously Wolves have won every game since then. So even if we got back to 6, it wouldn't have got us anywhere near it. But when you're looking at it, it's like you need to win all 5 games. West Ham need to lose 5 games. You've got to overturn a 20 goal difference. So you've got to win all your games by 2. They've got to lose all their games by 2. We knew we were down. It was just waiting for the confirmation to come, which it did yesterday.
Is there any kind of help, Dave, in this? We often talk about how the playoffs conversely would hinder a team setting up. Is there almost some, if you're going to get relegated, do it early and you're already essentially now able to look really at August in the EFL?
I mean, it's just what we got. We're down almost out of the bare bones of squad, though, aren't we? You mean for the last 4, setting up for the last 4 games? We're almost down to the bare bones, though, aren't we? I mean, you look on the bench yesterday. We had 2. Tommy Taylor was on the bench. I think young Boniface was on the bench again for the second week running. I mean, the squad is, for injuries and yesterday parts suspension, Davis, etc. The squad's down to the bare bones. So I guess again, hopefully we'll just put out the strongest team we can for the rest of the season. There's always talk of any loanees, just leave them out. They're not going to be here next season. Well, it might not be a case of that. It might just be a case of necessity at least for the next game. Although, perhaps on a bit more positive note, I think Amari was on the bench yesterday, wasn't he? I believe. Obviously didn't come on, but he's obviously virtually fit again. So, it'll be interesting.
Dave, Kieran McKenna said that Amari and Jens Kajus were just filling up a spot on the bench.
Yeah. He did say that.
Yeah, neither of them are ready to
You're quite
play.
right, Joe. He did say that. So, it'll be interesting to see, but we might just have to go with, with what we can put out, including loanees at this moment in time.
In terms of planning, Joe, you always imagine there's a left and a right for a team that may be changing division. And my God, we used to sing 15, 16, 17 years in the Championship. We're still famous and you're still what. But, I mean, my God, we've had 1, 2, so 3 changes of division in 3 consecutive seasons now. But I guess full steam ahead with the right fork of the plan from now, really.
Yeah, I imagine that was how it's been for the last few weeks, as it is anyway. I can't imagine there's been many plans for staying up made over the last few weeks. I'd imagine even if we had stayed up, a lot of the recruitment plans would have been fairly similar anyway. We do tend to try and stick with our long-term targets. Maybe that might have changed this year, but I was speaking to someone today who knows a bit about what's going on with the recruitment. He said the list we're sort of putting together for this summer is scary, what we're going for this summer. So it's definitely not going to be a case of going down, taking relegation and seeing what happens. It's going to be attacking that window as hard as we can to come straight back up.
Oh.
Do you know the last person who said that to me, Joe, was, I forget the journalist's name. I did an interview for Birmingham at the start of the season. He said, "Oh, it's scary what their plans are." And I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. And he was onto something there, so I hope you are too. Chris
Well, I think someone was at the Bayern Munich Mainz game on behalf of us yesterday looking at things, so watch that space. I don't know who, maybe Harry Kane in the squad.
I was just going to very quickly say a big thank you to Chris McTaggart there. 10 New Zealand dollars there. Good morning from Queenstown, NZ. Commiserations for men's team. Congratulations for women's promotion. We are trying to work out what we're moving back and what we're moving for. We're going to try and talk a little bit longer than usual on the ITFC women's team. Massive, massive thank you to Chris for the super chat. This podcast will always be free, but if you do want to dip your hand in your pocket and support like Chris just has, feel free, and you can also join our wonderful Telegram group and support in that way as well. It's completely free, Dave, to hit the like button and get your comments going, and we appreciate each of you doing that right here and now on YouTube, and all of you listening after the fact. What do I normally say? Dog walk, treadmill, driving in the lorry, wherever you are listening. We really appreciate each and every one of you. And thank you for your support over 10 years now. Right, should we get into this then? Newcastle United versus Ipswich Town. Let's go to Joe on the ITFC team, which read a little something like this. Palmer in goal. O'Shea, Wolfenden, your favourite, Joe. Burgess, Greaves, Johnson, more from him. Lots from him today. Morsey, Taylor with a start. Clark. And Ciso. And Liam Delapo Ole actually gets the start. Joe, bare bones?
Yeah, well, I think McKenna said afterwards to sort of explain the team that that sort of double game week we had where we played Bournemouth on the Wednesday night and Wolves on the Saturday, that really Axel Tuanzebe and Jens Kajust sort of struggled through that. They probably weren't ready to play those two games, but as it was at the time, sort of desperation mattered. So now it's a case of just trying to sort of rejig them back into a proper routine. So that meant that Luke Wolfenden came in and Darragh O'Shea moved over there. I think we all knew Jacob Greaves was going to be the one that came in for Leif Davis when we found out that Connor Townsend was injured as well. And then, Jack Taylor for the same reason as Axel Tuanzebe dropping out Jens Kajust. So Taylor's the obvious man to come in for a start there because Calvin Phillips is with an Achilles injuries, but it does just, I don't know, it seems like that's just the end of his spell at Ipswich Town, and it's just going to just drift away over the last few weeks. And that was it. And Jack Clark gets another chance after getting half an hour the week before. See what happens to him this week.
Dave, you got anything to add to what Joe's had to say?
No, not really. As we said, bare bones, and it was the pretty much, I guess, looking at it, the strongest side he could, what he's left with, he could put, we could put out. I mean, we'll get into it, but I think we started off quite okay, didn't we? Really.
You're going to talk to me about the Newcastle team first, but I'm going to get into that. And Dave, the question I've got to you is, where do these guys rank against the kind of elite teams, Arsenal and Man City and Liverpool we've come across in terms of individuals? So it's Pope in goal, Trippier, Livramento, Burn, Shah. You liked the midfield last time, didn't you, Dave? Willock, Tonali, Guimarães, Barnes, who has been a problem for us for various different teams over the years, hasn't he? Isak and Jacob Murphy. Yeah, Jacob? Is it Josh or Jacob? Which one is it?
That's Jacob, isn't
Jacob.
It? Yeah.
I love the blank faces on everyone.
I'm glad I got that right.
One of my Norwich mates.
His brother plays for Portsmouth. He's at Portsmouth, and
he's had a really good season.
Yeah,
he's
had
both
a great season.
Not as good as Jacob.
Oh no. I was on I did the black and white. I did the black and white Chronicle pod. I think on Thursday, and we're speaking about Jacob Murphy. He said player of the season. Absolutely. Forget about Isaac. I mean, Isaac.
Apparently, one of them's got a mole or something there, and I'm like,
I
oh right,
don't know.
that's really going to help me, isn't it? Yeah.
He didn't go into that, but he said, Isaac, what a great season. He said, but no, Jacob Murphy's just been absolutely superb. Yeah, there's some form there. Barnes has been fairly hot form lately. Murphy, obviously, Isaac, Tonali and Bruno. I thought until I saw Odegaard and Rice last week were comfortably the best central midfield pair I saw. So yes, I mean it's a strong. I mean look at the bench for God's sake. You got people like Gordon, okay, Wilson, who really hasn't played that much this season, but it's just strong, isn't it? But yeah.
Well, you seem itching to get into this, Dave. How do we start?
Well, I think Joe would agree. I think we started pretty well. We got a couple of overturns, a ball in their half. Delap was having some joy, and Ciso was sort of landing on the ball. They really weren't. They were throwing balls in the box. We were getting our blocks in, getting our clearances in, and until one sort of comedy. Okay, I think it was a foul from Palmer where the ball sort of like was bouncing about in the box, lobbed towards the far post, and he kind of got caught under the ball. But I think it was obstruction. He was obstructed there. I think by Guimaraes. I think it was.
He kind of just backs into it.
Yeah, he does. Granari stands his ground, but in all ways, those situations, the keeper gets the benefit. Other than that, no, I thought we were keeping them at arm's length and defending really, manfully, but really well, dealing with it well.
What are you saying, Joe?
Yeah, similar to Dave. I thought we had a couple of bright openings, but we were mainly solid, compact, defended the box well, and just had a sort of turned ball over a couple of times. Jack Clark had a decent shot, which I think deflected behind for a corner. I'm not sure it did actually get a touch. Went behind for a corner and a couple of breaks, and Ciso looked lively, and it just looked like one of the away performances we've got used to seeing this year, where we sit back and can take them on the break and create and threaten and look a little bit sharp on there and do that. And it just felt like it was a game similar to the Chelsea game, similar to maybe Tottenham, other games like that, where we were in a good position. The game was playing out as we wanted it to, and we were doing what we needed to do to stay in the game.
Which takes us to the half-hour mark, and let's just get Joe away from this, Dave, if we can, because we're going to talk about some refereeing now for the next 5 minutes. And a yellow card for Johnson, and you're not going to have to whisper Johnson this week because he's front and centre, Dave.
I mean, I just don't know. I mean, you watch it and you sort of shake your head and you think, honestly, really. But Joe Hart was summarised. I saw Match of the Day. Watch Match of the Day purposely to see the summarising of this. And Joe Hart got on it last night. And I think Joe Hart, I don't know if Joe agrees with this, but as the season's gone on Match of the Day, as a pundit, he's really improved, really come on. I quite like Joe Hart. And his sort of dissection of it last night was an odd one, but he said, well, look, what you got to appreciate, Johnson's run at full pace, absolutely full pace. There is a lunge from Byrne trying to play the ball. And yes, he does pull out at the last minute, but when Johnson's at full pace, Byrne's leg is planted, is there.
A point made by Gareth Bale famously about 10 years ago, right?
Okay, and basically Johnson is trying, as Hart described it, and I agree actually, I think Johnson's trying to avoid injury there, and he's gone over his leg, he's gone down. Now, Hart said, no, I wouldn't. I think it was Chapman's on last night. Matt Chapman. He said, "Well, is that basically cheating?" He said, "No, it's not cheating. Is it simulation?" No, I don't think it is. But then he totally contradicts himself. He said, "But the ref got it right. It's a yellow card." What? For Christ's sake. So, in those situations, I can sort of see both sides of that. And surely you just wave play on the ball breaks anyway to their possession. You waves play on, you get on with the game. But no. Immediately, ref can't wait again, and it's obviously he's done it for simulation there, and pulls the yellow card.
Joe, have you reached boiling point? Yeah.
Same as Dave, and again, I watched and listened to Joe Hart. It seems a few people in the chat did as well, and it seemed like he was made some really good analysis. He said you've as a runner, you've got to brace yourself for impact there. You've got to try and avoid that challenge. Dan Byrne does really well to pull his leg away, but it's not cheating. And I think, well, yeah, it's not cheating. But so I agreed with his analysis, but then I didn't agree with and he deserves a yellow card for it.
He contradicts himself.
He basically talked himself all the way down one road very well and very persuasively and interestingly as well, not just persuasively. I think it was actually quite interesting analysis. And then he said he deserved a yellow card. So I think maybe I'd have liked to have seen maybe Chappers push back at that and say, well, if you're saying he's not cheating, do you think it's a yellow card? And I think maybe then he might have thought about it. But yeah, no, it's just not a yellow card. It's just not something that, and as we said last week, and I don't want to go over it, in a million years, if that is the other way round, there's no way that is a yellow card for them. It's probably a free kick, let alone a yellow card. And it's just really, really frustrating. And I think Jack, who's been excellent in the chat, talking about how the other teams get refereed as though the main event and we get refereed as though we're the side act. And I think Jack said after the most sort of blatant piece of side act refereeing you've seen all season, we should have just dragged Johnson off at that point, because him getting a second yellow after this was the most obvious thing that was going to happen all season.
And the other side of that, the other summariser was Steph Porton, wasn't it? I think was the other summariser. And she said, Johnson should have stayed on his feet. He's away. He had a great touch. Should have stayed on his feet. Again, he's running at full pace there. He thinks he's going to get absolutely wiped out there. So yeah, it was. I think Joe, as someone said there, 90% of Joe Hart's analysis was spot on, and then the rest, I just think he'd forgotten what he'd said. It was bizarre.
Yeah. I think there's only like two areas in the laws, Dave, where the intent of the player, the mind reading bit, we've had it for years with deliberate or not deliberate handball, which is literally only the player knows whether they did it deliberately or not. Yeah. And with simulation, if someone can look it up in the chat, I don't know what the actual wording is, but it must obviously be you're accusing the player essentially of
you're attempting to deceive effectively.
Right. Yeah. Is that what the word? Yeah. If someone can, if Rich, you around in there, can look that up, that would be great. But ho hum, and minute 37. And I mean, I'm glad we had the precedent set last week, because this is a definite yellow card, just how Marino for Arsenal got yellow carded for exactly the same thing. So we knew that,
and similar to how Kieran Trippier fouled Jack Clark at the start of the game as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, very similar to that one.
I never want to be this podcast, but that's really infuriating, because we literally had the conversation about Marino last week. This is a yellow card, clearly. I said this last week about Marino, the second one, but
Isak's absolutely done him all ends up like a kipper. It's a great bit of skill, and he's pulled it, and he's pulled it back, and it's just crazy. Because
Dave, is that just an instinct? Because
of course it is. Yes, it is.
Don't do it on a yellow card, though.
No, of course you don't. I think I'd like to think Johnson's intelligent enough. It seems that whenever I hear him speak, he's intelligent enough sort of guy. It's pure instinct. And a nailed on yellow. Great bit of skill from Isak. Ironically, probably there was cover. Would it have been O'Shea? I think it was perhaps cover behind, but no, purely instinct. He's been done good and proper there, and he's just pulled him back.
Before you have your say on that,
you look at it and you're almost going, no, not again.
Don't do
poor
that.
Old bless Jack Clark, bless him.
Just the IFAB wording. We've got the words fake, exaggerate, deceiving, simulation, exaggerating, etc. So it is very much an accusation of nefarious actions. Joe, do you want to wade in on the second one is a yellow card, but it's so annoying after the first one, isn't it?
Yeah, and to be honest, I was watching it and I had a dodgy stream, and when Ben Johnson went through, it cut away. So I thought, I missed a free kick. So I didn't know he'd been booked. And then when he fouled Isak, I was like, that's a yellow card. And then when the ref went over to show the yellow card, I didn't realise it was a second. So yeah, instinctively, I thought, that's a silly one. That's a booking. But I think McKenna's point afterwards was similar to the Tuanzebe one at Aston Villa. Like, maybe have a little bit of discretion when you've given a really, really soft one to that same player earlier. Maybe have a little bit of discretion that you're effectively. That's 2 games in a row now where we've had a fullback sent off.
And Joe, in both instances,
for basically one foul in the whole half.
Joe, in both instances, both those red cards, if it was the other way round and the second one had been the soft one, they would show discretion, wouldn't they? They would, and it, the red card wouldn't come out. I don't think. It's
similar when you see, like, we've had four red cards a season for 2 yellows. So Calvin Phillips against Leicester, these 2 here, and then Harry Clark at Brentford. And it feels like in all 4 of those red cards, which have all cost us points, every single one of those 2 yellow, neither of those are both nailed on yellow cards. They're all sort of one correct one and one mistake in there, or one correct one and one very harsh one. But it's just really, 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 really difficult. And then, like I say, you just see it there, and the crowd was up, and the ref totally lost control of the game over the next 10 minutes. It was more like, normally it's like, okay, we just want to get through to half time to just see this through. But it felt like we just need to get through to half time before the ref does something ridiculous here, because he was to get every decision wrong, not just, he was favouring Newcastle. Every single thing he got wrong, to the point, like a little while later, Julian Cisse breaks with the ball and he's being dragged down behind from one player. And Jacob Murphy comes across and totally wipes him out. The ref doesn't give a free kick and they push through and we end up clearing the ball off the line like 10 seconds later. And because the foul on on Julian Cisse was so bad, VAR checks this foul for a red card. It was that bad a foul, and the ref hadn't even given a free kick to a foul that was checked.
There's a 50-50 in the penalty box about 3 seconds before that as well. So presumably his head's completely scrambled at that point. He
had totally lost the plot, and was just like it was similar to the Leicester game where Connor Chaplin's fouled and it goes to Phillips, and it's just like, the whole game had got on top of him, and it was just like, we need to get this out of the system so he can get into the dressing room and clear his head for 15 minutes, it felt like. But sadly, that wasn't going to be the case. Yeah, and there, Dan Burn v Liam Delap. Dan Burn is just pushing Liam Delap like over and over again, and all Liam Delap is doing is just swatting his hand away as he pushes him. And then he comes over and books both of them. It's like, how was that a yellow card for Liam Delap? He wasn't doing anything. He was trying to stand his ground when Dan Burn was doing it, and it was just, like I say, it was one of those games, sometimes when you're in the Championship, you get a ref, it's like, this occasion is just too big for him. He's come up from League One or something. And he's come up and it was just mad.
Morsey and Willock were at it all first half as well, weren't they? But they grappling with each other at one point.
Yeah.
I think VAR went and checked that as well, didn't they?
It did. Yeah, it did. Just quickly before we get to the penalty, Joe, if you're Jack Clark, are you almost like undoing your shin pads or whatever as Isak is skinning Ben Johnson?
Yeah, it's really difficult, isn't it?
It's so hard.
I think the only good thing about it for him is that it's probably bought him the last 4 starts of the season, if that makes sense. Because McKenna's probably feels so guilty towards him that imagine it was just, there's no way he's not going to be dropped for the next game, is he? Because that seemed even harsher. He'd been dragged off early in the first 2 for no fault of his own. He's going to start at least the next 2 and probably through to the end of the season. So hopefully he can come up with a goal or a big contribution, because he is playing well. He's really seems to have found his groove now for us. So that's a really promising thing for next season.
Dave, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but if, as Joe has suggested, the temperature's high and the ref's a bit all over the place, probably don't want to be tackling with your arms in the penalty box, do you?
No, you don't. No. I mean, at first when I saw it, you think, oh great, refs actually got that one. And you look, it's clear and obvious thing, but of course, VAR then look at it and you think, well, this is, on the basis of the first half, and Joe's quite right, that previous 10 minutes, you just know, this is only going to go one way. He ain't going to change, he ain't going to go at the monitor and come back and change his mind. So he knew it was only going to go one way. And then I suppose, again, is it a bit theatrical from Murphy? Yes. Is there contact from Enciso? Yes. You just don't give me an excuse. Probably the ref, got it wrong in the first place. I think it was pretty well placed. Begrudgingly, you're disappointed, obviously, as a Town fan, that the ref, had his mind changed there. But looking back on it, it's silly from Enciso to even make that challenge there, really.
Joe?
It's enough. It's enough in challenge, isn't it? It doesn't impede him. It doesn't. I say, if we're talking about simulation, where Rich has just put in there, what was it? Exaggerating the seriousness of a foul. Is that not what he did? He had his arm tugged and threw himself to the floor.
Joe, that only seems to apply when there's no foul. If there's a foul, you can do whatever the hell you like to exaggerate it.
That's what I mean. And it's just chucks himself to the floor. It's, like I say, it's not a. It's not a clear and obvious error. Is it a clear and obvious error if the ref's looking straight at something from 5 yards away?
But Enciso shouldn't be tugging at him anyway, Joe.
No, I think it's a penalty. It's a 20-25 penalty, isn't it?
When we saw the Connor Chaplin one against Leicester at the start of the season, we were told, well, the ref was in a good position for that, so that the VAR doesn't want to overrule the ref if he's in a good position for it. Well, is that consistency? The ref was in a very good position for this one. Yeah. So it's silly. It's silly from Enciso to even give him a decision to make. But it's not a clear and obvious error.
It's a soft one. It's a soft one.
It's very soft.
Yeah.
And this is sort of the point we've made over the last few weeks. It's not that all these decisions are inherently wrong and inherently against us.
No.
It's that if you put these 15, 20 decisions together and the interpretation of them all, every single one is going in the favour, is leaning the side away from us, whether it's 80% in our favour or 20% in our favour. Each one is leaning the other way at the moment, it feels. And whether it's Marino fouling someone or Kieran Trippier fouling someone, every single bit that could be interpreted for us is not being, and everything that could be interpreted for them is being. And like I say, when that, to be perfectly honest, when the penalty went in, I just thought, F this, I can't even be bothered to watch this. This game is done. We're not going to get anything out of this. It's just a waste of my time to spend the rest of it watching this. It became one of those. I did in the end, but it was
a horrible watch.
It was just, to be honest, if I wasn't doing the pod tonight, I probably wouldn't have watched it because I thought, I'll just catch up the highlights. I thought, no, I should watch it to speak to people about what actually happened, as opposed to just sit there and say I'm sulked off after half of it.
I think we all felt like that, Joe.
We did. Isak tucks the penalty home. And Dave, I know your odds on to lose away in the Premier League, even 11 versus 11 when you're a promoted team, but 10 versus 11. And then you throw a 45+4 goal in. And Joe's kind of right. It's like, well, going to be very. I think they won their last two games 5-4 at home as well. And it makes the second half pretty impossible.
It's just a non-event, Ben. Second half is just a complete non-event. It was just like a training exercise, a bit like, well, let's face it, very much like Arsenal second. Well, actually no, most of the game last week, but second half was it was just embarrassingly non-event really.
15 shots to 0 in the second half. There's your best league in the world for you.
I'm not sure.
You're just hoping for the first goal. That's the only hope you've got, isn't it, to get the first goal of the second half. Similar to, I know we were level against Villa at half time, but we got that. We managed to go 1-0 up and gave us something to hold on to. You're just hoping to get something to hold on to, but at 1-0 it was a huge task because you're just hoping for one break, one little bit of luck, one flick, something to go your way to try and get a goal out of absolutely nothing.
It was just embarrassing. We just couldn't get out more 30 yards from our goal almost. They've just encamped in it.
Dave, to that point, the Burn goal for 2-0 is very much a goal you concede when you're playing with 10 men and you're incredibly deep and everyone's on top of each other and too close to the goal.
I think in deference to, and they're all looking to sort of pick up the man, and it's a short corner. It's quite clever. I know there's obviously the extra man, but it's quite cleverly worked. I think Willock and Murphy, are involved, and they eventually release Trippier, who was just like crossing practice yesterday for Trippier, wasn't it? And it's a great little ball. He sort of hangs a ball up to the back post over Palmer, and Dan Burn, whatever he is, 6'3", 6'4", coming in at pace.
I think it's bigger than that even, Dave.
Well, maybe, probably
6'7", isn't he?
Is he something like that? But coming in at pace, there's only going to be one winner there, and he bundles O'Shea, and I think bundles Gamara's in the goal as well. Absolutely, incredibly, his first league goal of the season. Amazing.
He one disallowed at Portman Road, didn't he? Right in the very last minute.
Yes, he did. You're right. Yeah, he did. Considering that cracking goal he scored at Wembley, but his first league goal of the season. So. Yeah, again, up to that point, that's fairly early-ish in the second half, but we've got our blocks in and stuff like that. But it was decent, great cross to the back post. No blame attached pretty much to anybody there, really, down to 10 men.
It was just the fourth time in 3 games we've managed to concede from a short corner, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's annoying, isn't it? Yeah.
It's so difficult, though, when you add in. I know a couple of them have been crap, but you have to, Joe, add in that extra context of these poor lads have just been chasing their tails with 10 men for most of the last 2 games as well, haven't they? So I know it's poor, isn't it? But yeah. We do see the lesser spotted Ben Godfrey. Chaplin comes in, Hurst, Luongo. Well, actually, the third goal. It's a really good header, actually, this one, Joe, isn't it? The third goal.
Yeah, it is. And I think this is a player, a few people, I think he played really well in the cup games, is Will Asula. I think it was quite a big money move from Sheffield United, but one of those ones
felt like FFP skullduggery.
It did, but I don't think it was. I think that he was just seen as someone with a lot of
potential. Gone on loan for Derby and not been very good as well. Went down to League One. Maybe when we were there, actually.
When you look at him now, he looks. I think we were linked with him, and then he went to Derby. But he looks a real big, physical, quick, strong. a very, very similar profile to what we want in a number 9. So maybe there's a way he ends up here next season on loan or doing something. It wouldn't surprise me. He does seem like that right type of player. Yeah, but it's a great cross, Trippier again, fantastic header. But I don't know what you're going to say. That foul on Cameron Burgess, two hands in Cameron Burgess's back, chucks him on the floor. And yeah, does that get looked at?
Well, no, he's 2 hands on him, so shoves him. So Burgess, but admittedly, I think Burgess is perhaps going to get caught under the ball anyway. But that's beside the point. So Guimaraes does give him a little shove. Burgess is off balance, and it's better than a free header. He gets up really high and powers it in. It's a really great header, isn't it? Great technique and quality. Obviously, a quality cross from Trippier. But yeah, there's certainly a foul on. Well, I think it's a foul on Burgess there, without a doubt.
And we can just go back into the archive. That's a much clearer foul than the one that the Lap apparently did against Bournemouth when in the home game where Cameron Burgess himself scored. This was a much clearer foul, but does it get given? Of course it doesn't. So
just for the avoidance of doubt, no one on the pod is saying that we don't get relegated if
not even close. And also, we don't believe it's a conspiracy or corruption.
Thank you, yeah.
They're not words I'm saying. They're not words I think. It's just the way it seems to have gone. Whether it's just subconscious bias, but every sort of veer you can do, it's almost like the refs think, the only way Ipswich are going to try and get something out of this game is to try and spoil it. So I need to be on top of them to stop them spoiling the game. And then it means that you've got no freedom to do anything, which the other team does, and the other teams are all such bastards as well. They are. It's not like when you play them in a cup game. They are there with all their players from across the world, from all these countries, with their absolute bruiser mentality. Have to win. Will cheat their way to any victory they can possibly get. Will do whatever they can for any advantage, and that's what you're up against. There's no quarter given or asked. It is they will. All these people to be at this level of sport, coming out of a lot of times extreme poverty in countries, sort of second world, third world countries, dragged up from places where if they weren't making it as footballers, I'd say these sort of Brazilians coming out of the favelas and bits like that, they are hard as nails, these bastards there, and that's what they need. That's what they need to get there, and they don't just switch that mentality on and off. It is on every game. They kill their grandmother to win a game of Scrabble.
And again, look how much they worked the ref again yesterday. All over the ref, every single decision, all round, all over the ref, on him from the first minute to the last.
Just a little peel back of the curtain. I'm on my own tonight. We were worried that Enid might get out of bed. I can turn the monitor off. My missus is home. There we go. Final whistle goes, Dave, and relegation confirmed.
Yeah, inevitable, as we said, let's kid ourselves, for the last month or two, probably just inevitability. Does it feel as bad, certainly, as our previous relegation from the Premier League? No, because we were still really in it. All right, not until we played, obviously we got hammered at Liverpool, but, those last few games, we still did certainly have a squeak back then.
That felt far more self-inflicted, that one, didn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, Christ, we were where Wolves are with like 10 games to go, weren't we? Like 13th or something. Or, well, see the rewind pod, spoiler alert. And certainly, the real desolation from the relegation down to League One in 2019, just horrendous. So no, it just feels different than that. I think everybody feels we're in a much stronger place. We're going down in a much stronger place, a much stronger position, hopefully with a bit of a championship ready squad already, but with some wise, perhaps experienced additions to it. I think we should be. There's no reason to think that we won't be strong and up there challenging, or we should be up there challenging next season. So I think a totally different mindset. I think the Premier League to most supporters hasn't been that much fun. Look, as personally, I know other fans, probably Joe's the same. I've enjoyed seeing some of these players down at Portman Road. I haven't enjoyed seeing us get rolled over week after week after week. It hasn't been that enjoyable. But yeah, I suppose the experience has been good. But as a product, horrible, really. Let's hope we go back, get promoted sooner, and just come back stronger and more importantly, wiser for the season we've spent there.
A good point from Rob in the comments there. Joe, you've mentioned a few times that, the poor old Leicester fans going 9 home games without a goal. And, Southampton fans right at the start of the season saying, oh, you're going to hate this. This is terrible. does feel like there is still a belief in the club and the kind of current regime, doesn't it?
Yeah, we're going down as one club, sort of from the ownership through the board level, through the management team, through the players, through the fan base. Everyone is still on the same page. I'd say you hear a little bit of dissent maybe if you waste your time on social media digging through places that you shouldn't be bothering with, but generally it's all still a positive. Everyone still thinks Kieran McKenna's a fantastic manager. Everyone still thinks Mark Ashton's been a fantastic CEO that's driven the clubs forward. Everyone still thinks what we're doing in the community is great. The fan base, we're still selling every ticket for every game, home and away. We're clapping the players off at the end of every game, and we're proud of the players. You can see this means a lot to the players and the management team, and it's just we know what journey the club has been on. We've been here through the lowest of lows over the last few years, and we know that this club is in a totally different place to what it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and we're now on the up. Yeah, it's not always a straight line up. As progress doesn't work like that, and we go down. But you look at what we go down as and with, and the fan base, and you think, well, yeah, it's not a if, it's a when. Effectively, we get back here, we're going in that right direction. Hopefully, it's soon. It's not 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It's just not great, but it's. I say. We when we come back next time, it's sort of coming back stronger, coming back wiser. I think somebody mentioned in the comments, and just we need to know. It's a huge learning curve for everyone involved in the club, from the supporters, through the management team, through the players, through the ownership. We know more of what's needed now, but it doesn't mean it's going to be easy to achieve if we do come back up and to do it there. But we know that this is no picnic. You just come in and we've been sort of chewed up and spat out really by the Premier League, and we need to make a better go of it next time.
We do. Here's a word from our sponsors.
Blue Monday is brought to you in partnership with Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for property and business law. Whether you're buying a home, starting a business, or just need legal guidance, our dedicated team has got you covered. Trust our award-winning customer service team to handle your legal matters with care and expertise. Find out more at atwells.com or visit us at our offices in Ipswich, Colchester, London, and our new location in Woodbridge.
Thank you very much to the people over at Atwells, and also One Stop Badges. You can get 10% off at One Stop Badges via the link in the description here on YouTube. Plenty still going on in Blue Monday land for this week and through the rest of the season. We've got a rewind show with Dave and Craig. Sorry, everyone. Bad news. I'm standing in for Rich on pre-match. He's not around for work, so it'll be me and Seb on pre-match, and if you're lucky, we'll get Rich to tag in for me, and he can host with the two lads here for the Flagship on Sunday. I know a lot of you are eager to hear about ITFC Women, so we are going to rattle through the Premier League roundup in association with Innovation Labs, and we will be talking about the women. And it was Chelsea 1, Everton 0, Brighton 3, West Ham 2. West Ham kept their end of the bargain up, didn't they? Southampton 1, Fulham 2. Southampton still haven't got over that points hump. Wolves 3, Leicester 0. Dear God. Bournemouth 1, Man United 1, Liverpool 5, Spurs 1. Liverpool are the champions. Dave, answer very candidly. Do you care about any of that, or do you want to talk about the women?
Let's move on.
Let's move. Do you agree with that, Joe?
Yeah, the only thing, Jamie Vardy needs 2 goals to get to 200 for Leicester, and I'd have liked to have got to at least one out of the way yesterday when he missed a penalty, didn't he?
Oh, he did.
I don't want him scoring his 200th against us, because that's going to be his last ever home game his last ever home game for Leicester is going to be against us. And obviously, their greatest ever player, probably.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big party there, so we want to make him go home unhappy. But he's not really one that reads a script normally, as he writes his own scripts, Jamie Vardy.
You sound like that EFL commentator there, Joe. You just need to put a bit more. He writes his own scripts. You just need to be a bit more Partridge.
Look at his face.
No, that's real commentary, not
that's proper, isn't it?
I feel sorry. It was Gary Weaver I'm slagging off. We love you, Gary Weaver, in your pre-written lines, especially when that's us. Dave, do you want to lead off? Because it was party time for the ITFC women today.
Yeah, absolutely superb. A home to Cheltenham. A bumper. Rich did give the numbers. He said 2,150. Bless Rich. He said 20,000 at first. I was looking around thinking, hang on a minute. But no, just over 2,000 there.
2150, Dave.
Absolute superb, superb atmosphere. Joe was there with his boys and stuff. So a lot of families, parents and families there. Proper atmosphere and a thumping 8-0 win to finish things off. I mean, it was all over bar. Well, say literally bar the shout. I think we needed to lose. Hashtag needed to win in about 35 goal swing or something ridiculous. So it was all done and dusted. So yeah, really nice, really lovely send off. Felix though looked great. The sun was out, blue sky. Yeah, just brilliant. That's what they've strived for the last 3 seasons at least. Come close, heartbreak on certainly a couple of occasions, but to finally get over the line was superb. So it'll be interesting to see how the jump is. And I'm told it's a very, very big jump between the third tier and the Championship next season.
Yeah, Joe, for those people who don't necessarily follow the women's game, can you just walk us through the system and where the women now kind of sit in the hierarchy?
So effectively, the top of the pyramid in the Women's League is the Women's Super League, the WSL, which has 12 teams in it. Below that, you have the Women's Championship, which is, I think it's normally 12 teams, but there's 11 this year because one of the teams went bust during the season, maybe Reading. And then below that, you've then got 2 leagues of 12, which is the FAWNL Southern and Northern divisions. That is the league we've won today, the Southern division of that. I think Nottingham Forest have won the Northern division, so it will be us and Nottingham Forest going into the Championship next year, alongside the likes of sort of Newcastle, Bristol City, who were in the Super League last year, and some, I think, Birmingham. And there's a couple. There's still a playoff to be decided for one of the teams. There, Charlton's another team in there, London City. So yeah, so it's a big jump up. Portsmouth have managed to stay up there. They were the team that went up from this league last season, so that gives you some hope. But it is a big jump. But it's one that we've been going for a long time, and one that's probably at least 1 season overdue, maybe 2 seasons overdue. But I think with the Premier League money and the ownership, that the club really decided last year, like, sort of enough's enough. We're going to put the proper investment into this and infrastructure, bringing the players in, and it's paid off straight away this season. So it's really good thing, really good game. I thought literally from the first whistle, the girls were at it today. It was straight from the kickoff. Rather than knock the ball back, it was like Lucy O'Brien picks the ball up for the kickoff and just drives forward with the ball. So it was like, we are not going to do this. And Cheltenham just could not get out of their half, really. It was, I said to a couple of people there, are you allowed to say it's women v girls? Is that the same as saying it's men v boys as you would in the women's game? But that was what it looked like. And they were really good. Sophie Peskin, Natasha Thomas, Lucy O'Brien, Ella Rutherford, all the attacking players, and the ones behind just swept everything up and kept it moving. And I think it's quite fitting to see. Well, it was probably a little bit of an own goal, but Natasha Thomas had rose highest to head home the 7th just before the end of the game, and then she did sort of bundle one home, which may have been an own goal, but I think very fitting for her to score a hat-trick to take us into the league. When the game ended, she sort of collapsed onto her sort of haunches where everyone celebrated her. You can see it was very emotional, means a lot to her. She's like the longest serving player, the all-time top goal scorer. I think she's one of the directors of the foundation with Connor Chaplin. So yeah, so fantastic for her. Sophie Pesca, who's I think scored her 23rd goal of the season in the league. It's more than a goal a game, and she got 6 last week a few weeks back at MK, and is just the best player in the team by a long way. Lucy O'Brien, who was sponsor, scored a brilliant first goal. Casey J. Bonwick came on, and this sort of tiny little player, you think he's got like, they're just absolutely rifles one over 30 yards on her debut. You think, yeah, some serious talent, and really great to be there, great to be part of it, great to see it, and great for the club. I say Kieran McKenna was there, Mark Ashton was there, Gary Probert was there. And like I say, I don't think there was any of the players, but in a way, it's sort of nice to let the women's team have their day as opposed to sort of be seen alongside that.
Dave?
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. I mean, that Sophie Pesca is something else. Sometimes, Joe laughing earlier said, men against boys, women against girls. I mean, it's like sometimes she gets a ball and it's like the 5th formers playing against the 1st years sometimes, you know what I mean? It just runs past. Incredible player. Yeah, and you know, as Joe quite rightly said, such a highlight for Natasha Thomas, who's been, it's quite right, highest goal scorer, longest serving player. Lovely to see. She was really quite emotional, I think, as they all were, but she was especially at the end. But I know from what I know about it, it's going to be a very big jump. So obviously a big summer ahead for us. But obviously in previous seasons, it would have still been a playoff, wouldn't it? It would have been North v South. There was only one.
I think last season was one in each league.
It changed, didn't it? Yeah, it changed last season. So I think it was pretty imperative that they got up, and obviously got up in the end. Hashtag, like I said, lost today. So in the end, they got up. Champions quite comfortably. So it'll be interesting to see how they fare. Next season in the championship, whether it be at Felixstowe or wherever they're going to play.
Yeah, big thanks to our friends of Blue Monday conglomerate there who helped chip in for the support of the Lucy O'Brien sponsorship. You can see their names at the end of the show. Just quickly before we finish on the women's team, get lined up with your questions for Dave and Joe for the final segment. And from a podcast point of view, do feel free to reach out and contact us, because it's something we're trying to work towards and drip in slowly. It's a difficult balancing act, because we do understand most people are here to hear about the men's team, and we totally respect that. We feel we may be, I don't know, a year, 18 months away from being able to have a specific women's show at some point. So let us know how you want to kind of proceed with it, because certainly Rich has been literally banging the drum for the women's team, but we are cognizant of our existing subscribers and listeners. So do feel free to reach out privately to anyone on the team and give us your ideas for how we cover the women going forward, Dave.
And just quickly, a mention for Rich, who emceed really, really well there today, including the presentation. Very, very professional job, Rich.
Did he do any kind of partridgeisms, Joe?
No, he didn't. I won't mention when he read out the crowd, though. So
yeah.
That's already been mentioned. Sorry, were you just going to make a final point, or bury?
Yeah. So another thing, which sort of for people to think about is, so I was there, like my son had played football for his under-7s team this morning. One of his teammates, we saw her at the game. She's a girl in his team, and she's saying, what do you know what my job's going to be when I'm older? I'm going to play for this team. I'm going to be a defender for this team. And another one of our friends we did NCT with, their daughter's 8, the same age as my eldest son. He's just like, I'm not really into football, but she's just gone mad for this. She's now playing for the Wildcats, doing this. She absolutely loves coming up here. As soon as any tickets are announced, we've got to get it. She's all over it. And I think maybe sort of people who've got a daughter, you may see a bit more of this now, that it's always been a dream for boys to play, and you can see this, but now girls are being able to have that same dream as people and to have a team of this level in Ipswich is great. So hopefully they can go from strength to strength, and we can continue to support them, and as a whole, the community can get behind as well.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. And congratulations to the ITFC women's team, promoted, and party time today with an 8-0 victory. Right, let's get into some questions. Dave, for Amanda, evening from Cardigan Bay, Wales. Question: who can we keep, and who do we want to keep?
Let's start with who we want to keep. Well, I think Liam Delap,
Hutchison.
Yeah. Who can we keep? Well, I don't look. Let's face it. It's a sort of, we all know it's a fait accompli. We're not going to keep, unless something extraordinary happens that we're not aware of. We're not going to keep Liam Delap. And we've said all along, teams are going to be looking at, you'd think, at Amari Hutchison. Possibly even still, Lee hasn't had the greatest season, but we've said there's reasons for that. Perhaps where he's playing in the Premier, and been playing in the Premier League. Perhaps Leif Davis as well, maybe Dara O'Shea. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting few weeks. I mean, what everybody hopes is that with the outs, that if these players are, look, there will be outs, that we get the outs done as quickly as possible. That's not always possible. We get our business done as quickly as possible. As we said, very excited to hear what Joe said earlier about it's going to be we've got some scary scary transfer targets. So yeah, like the sound of that. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting and it's always an exciting summer. But yeah, obviously money talks, and yeah, there may well be one or two that perhaps we will accept bids for. But yeah, they're the most likely, I would have thought, out of the squad.
Thunderstruck. Ben, assuming we will have some pennies to spend, who are the best 3 championship
Come
players?
on.
Too difficult, isn't it? But to name a few, we kind of got our shopping list, haven't we? So Sunderland, you can't get Bellingham or Rigg, but you might be able to get Sirkin, who Joe and I have talked about before.
So just quickly, Ben, did you see what the PFA Team of the Year was in the Championship today?
No.
It doesn't give a huge amount away, but it's James Trafford in goal, Jayden Bogle, CJ Egan-Riley, Esteve, Harrison Burrows, Io Tanaka, Jude Bellingham, Gus Hamer, Dan James, Borja Sainz, and Josh Sargent. So it is, other than Sainz, Sargent, and Bellingham, it is 8 players from Leeds, Sheffield United, and Burnley.
Yeah.
But
wow,
Harrison Burrows brought in from League One. Tanaka was a reasonably creative signing who we saw at the start of the season. And I know Norwich signed Sargent in the Premier League, but that is proof positive that you can. And Sargent stunk the Premier League out for Norwich as well, but then has come down and is basically the best pound for pound striker in the Championship. But let me just finish answering that question. Bristol City, have a think about it. Probably still Twide, isn't it? For God's sake. Coventry,
Knight.
maybe. We like Van Evik, don't we? The right back for Coventry, and Sims and Wright, maybe. Lots to talk about Ivanovic at Millwall. Borough, Hackney would be perfect, wouldn't he, in central midfield? West Brom, we like Fellow. Swansea, the 2 centre-backs there, Darlin and Cabango. So there's plenty there, isn't there? Rob, Joe, do you feel most of our... Dr. Joe, by the way, most of our soft tissue injuries are purely down to the step up in intensity? Good luck, mate.
I imagine that's a big part of it. You're asking the players to do a lot more than they've done. And I think it was Axel Tuanzebe did a podcast a little while ago, and he said basically like your heart rate, you sort of have like zone 1 to 6 of your heart rate. And he says like for the whole game, you are zone 5 and 6. So whilst it looks like
3 is like jogging on the treadmill gently, isn't it? Yeah.
You're basically like 80%, 85% heart rate for the whole game. So it's just the levels of fitness are just through the roof. There is no rest. There is no recovery time. You are just at it all game, every game. Sprints, the number of sprints and the intensity of the sprints and the number of them and the speed of them is going up season in, season out. So it's just, you almost can't keep up here. So it's just going to be, I'd say, just athletes basically, isn't it? And you need to make sure you do it. And as we've had a lot of injuries in the squad, it's then you then push your maybe stronger players a little bit harder because you don't want to, you know that if you're in the game, you're 1-0 up, 1-1, coming up to 60 minutes, you don't want to take your players off to bring on weaker players because you haven't got the full 1 to 18 squad like most Premier League teams do. So you then sort of push people that maybe aren't ready to be pushed. So it's really, really difficult. But I'd imagine we've done all we can with regards to the science. But you see in the what we're talking about in the team earlier today, Axel Tuanzebe and Jens Kajus played the Bournemouth and the Wolves game Wednesday, Saturday, and now 2 weeks later they're having to have a rest today to catch up from that because they probably weren't ready for that, and we had to push them through that. Well, you could have pushed them through that and gone and they got injured.
Right, let's move this along. I reckon we can get these all answered. Dave, this is from Ed. Is there a risk we're overconfident about next season? By the way, I did a couple of watch-alongs on my channel this week and was asked 500 times, Ben, will Ipswich get promoted straight back next season? And my answer is very kind of carefully, well, they should do. But an advantage in life doesn't mean you're going to take it always, does it?
No, it doesn't. There can be outside influences, circumstances, but no, I agree with exactly what you said there. They should be in a very, very strong position to challenge in those playoff spots, and dare I say it, automatic.
Yeah.
Joe, you look at the league table now in the Championship, and Sheffield United in third are 22 points ahead of Bristol City in fifth.
Yeah,
that is the parachute payments.
There you go.
Yeah.
Joe, Stuart, can we read much into the 4-1 win over Coventry as a barometer for the upcoming season? It's a bit yes and no. It's a weird game, that wasn't it, Joe?
Yeah, well, we made 11 changes and they'd made 3, so we went with a total rotated side and we just blew him away. But goals change games. But I guess this is the difference. We've got the players now, the Jaden Philogene, Tamari Hutchinsons, Jack Clark, Sammy Smoddocks, that will just pop up with goals all the time. So whilst you say, oh yeah, we maybe got a little bit lucky because we scored our first 2 shots, that's because we've got the talent in the squad that will score their first 2 shots of the game as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got to be aiming like 90 points minimum, really, and that might not be enough.
Yeah, it seems
teams.
We're in a new era with those points totals where Big Fat Joe's 2 points per game. I don't know anymore. Dave from Paul, is it wrong to be picky about where Liam Delap ends up? Dave, isn't this just now? Well played, mate. Go and get paid. You've done what you can for us, and
I totally agree.
Move,
I said earlier, I was on the Newcastle pod last week, and obviously Delap came up, and he said, "Oh, what do you think? Would he? Do you think how he'd fit in here?" I said, "I think it'd be absolutely ideal." I mean, obviously, if Isak's there, isn't he? He's going to be second fiddle to Isak, but I think they would absolutely love him there. The style of play, and he's bashes centre halves, so their centre backs about that. Absolutely love him there. So, yeah, one eye in the World Cup. You'd think if he does get a big move to the Premier League, somewhere in the Premier League, has a start, get some game time, score some goals, then you think he is going to get a call up to the England squad at some point. You think he's certainly one of the players would be looked at fast track there. So. Yeah, I'd like to see him at somewhere like Newcastle. Please don't end up somewhere like Man United. It'd be horrible, wouldn't it?
The only interesting thing, though, is that Kieran McKenna, in his press conference on Thursday, said, "Oh, it's not definitely he's going to leave here."
Oh, he's just bumping the price up.
No, but I don't think he can bump it up if there is
what it is,
which exists.
Yeah.
But like Kieran McKenna is, as we've said before, he's very, very measured with what he says. So it's interesting that he said that. And then later on in the day, David Ornstein did a Q&A in The Athletic, and they said, "Where's Liam Delap going to go?" And he said, "There's no set destination from it at the moment. There's lots of contenders for Liam Delap." And that
Arsenal aren't interested in if Ornstein's saying that.
But he also said, and that includes Ipswich, by the way, where there was no need for us to bring us back into that. And again, David Ornstein he's not Fabrizio Romano, who's in the pocket of agents just tweeting the same people all the time. So very, very interesting. I think that on the same day that McKenna said, "Look, it's not definitely it's going to happen," that Ornstein says that Ipswich are still a live contender in this race. Like I'd have put the likelihood of keeping Liam Delap at like 0.1%, but maybe I've upgraded it to 1.1% over the last week.
Right, you get a one-word answer to this, and I'm holding you to it. Toffee Crisp, Dave, lots of talk. Flynn Downs is top of the list. Does the panel want him back? Right now, it's a yes from me. If you could guarantee Downs in terms of a midfielder, what do you say, Dave?
Yes, Joe said at the right price, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. This is a great question we'll finish on from, and I'm so sorry, I'm going to butcher your name here, Bargul. Sorry, I'm trying my hardest here. Now that relegation is confirmed, if there was one thing you could go back in time and say to McKenna at the start of the season, what would it be? And bear in mind, I was so excited. I wonder if the answer is
don't sign Calvin
Phillips. Do you know what I mean? Look elsewhere for your big loan signing. But no, of course, if I was offered Calvin Phillips at the start of the season, I would have taken the same gamble that McKenna. It's very easy to sit here with hindsight. What's your take, Dave?
Blimey, I just it's such a tough hindsight, such an incredibly tough thing, isn't it? I think perhaps tactically, be in certain situations, be a little bit more flexible tactically in certain situations.
Get it forward, 4-4-2.
Yeah. But I'm not saying out and out 4-4-2, but perhaps a little bit more of that for sure.
Joe, one thing that McKenna would go back and change?
I guess just that physicality of the central midfield. I don't think we got the recruitment right for that, either with Jens Kajust or Calvin Phillips. I just don't think either of them have been the right player in there for us. But yeah, look at that. Or like I said, take the Brighton job if it's on offer.
Interesting. Guys, apologies. Norman, Phil, Daniel, Thunderstruck, Neil in the chat there. We're not going to be able to get your questions done in time. Final reflections, Joe, as Ipswich Town are relegated from the Premier League.
I think it's more a day to celebrate the women's team getting promoted.
There you go.
So we both teams enter the championship from different directions in the same weekend. But no, a great weekend for the women and the men. It's just we've been here, but we knew this was coming. This isn't a surprise. So yeah, just roll on next season. I'm really looking forward to next season. I'm really looking forward to being back in the Championship, not having to worry about VAR. Just actually, when the ref makes a mistake, you can just give him sort of dog's abuse for that.
You'll still be moaning about him making mistakes, though, Joe.
But I can tell you one thing, and someone can put this on record. I can guarantee I won't be saying, "Oh, I wish we had VAR in this league to sort out this error that we had," because I do not wish we had it at any point.
He's not relenting on that.
I'm like Steve Redgrave when he's saying, "If you see me in a boat again,
shoot me." Yeah. Dave, last word from you, mate.
Yeah, look, like Joe, I think kind of looking forward to the Championship, but let's try and eke out a few more points in these last 4 games. Some good chances. We've also got Leicester, Leicester away, West Ham at home, Brentford, Everton away. Let's just try and eke out. Maybe even I'll take anything. Maybe 4 points from those games, and let's a little bit of respectability between now and the end. A bit more respectability between now and the end of the season would be nice.
I've got one more message. If you're at Everton next week, keep an eye out for the mascots. That's my eldest boy. So make sure you give him a cheer if you get the chance. Yeah, so
brilliant.
So I won't be live next Sunday because I'm staying up in Liverpool for the weekend.
Oh, so good luck with that.
Wish him luck. Counting the sleeps, Joe. He must be counting.
He's very, very excited.
Oh,
and he's going to be one of the last at Goodison as well, isn't he?
Yeah, there's only one more game.
Wow. Oh, sensational. Brilliant. Good luck with that, Joe. Ipswich Town relegated. It was Newcastle 3, Ipswich 0. Thank you for joining us on Blue Monday. See you later in the week for Rewind, and I'll see you for the preview with Seb on Thursday.